Everyone at that wedding cried. Happy tears, they all said. And I stood there in a pale yellow bridesmaid dress, holding a bouquet of white peonies, watching my sister say his name, and I already knew exactly who he was. His name is Marcus, and my sister's name is Claire. She's 3 years younger than me, 31 to my 34, and she has this quality I've never been able to replicate. She walks into a room and people just settle. Like whatever tension was there before she arrived decides it no longer needs to exist. She has always been like that, even as a kid. I was the one who argued at the dinner table. She was the one who made everyone laugh before the argument could finish. I adored her. I need you to understand that before anything else. I adored her completely. I met Marcus about 14 months before she did. Or rather, 14 months before she told me she was seeing someone. That's how she is. Claire doesn't announce things early. She waits until something is real before she lets you near it. I met him at a work event. One of those Thursday evening things where a company rents out a bar and everyone pretends to enjoy themselves. I wasn't there with my company. I was there with a friend who dragged me along. Marcus was someone's colleague. Tall, easy smile, the kind of person who asks follow-up questions when most people are already scanning the room for someone better to talk to. We talked for maybe 40 minutes. I thought about him on the train home. That's the honest version. We exchanged numbers. We got drinks twice. Nothing physical happened. I want to be clear about that, not because it changes things, but because it's true. Nothing physical happened. But there was a pull there that I recognized, and I think he recognized it too, and then he stopped texting back and I told myself that was fine. People disappear. It happens. I put him in that folder in my head where unfinished things go, and I moved on. Then Claire sent me a photo on a Tuesday afternoon in October. Her and some guy at what looked like a farmer's market. She'd written, "So this is a thing now, I think." I zoomed in on the photo and my stomach dropped so fast it felt like the floor had moved. It was Marcus. I sat with my phone in my hand for probably 10 minutes, just staring. The specific smell of that bar came back to me, something like cedar and old upholstery. The way he'd leaned against the counter when he talked. The fact that I'd worn that green dress and thought, after, that it had been a good choice. I called Claire that night. She was warm and bright and already half in love. I could hear it. She said his name like she was careful with it. She said, "You'd really like him." And I said, "I'm sure I will." I never told her. Here is the part I've turned over so many times it's gone smooth, like a stone you carry in your pocket. I told myself it didn't matter because nothing had happened. I told myself 2 drinks and a conversation wasn't a history. I told myself that if Marcus had wanted me to know he remembered me, he would have said something to Claire, and the fact that he hadn't meant it was nothing to him. Probably nothing to him. I used that word, probably, to do a lot of heavy lifting. I met him officially about 6 weeks after that photo. Claire had us all over for dinner, her small apartment, pasta that took her all afternoon, candles she'd set up like she wasn't nervous. Marcus walked in and he saw me, and for exactly 1 second, his expression shifted. Something quick and controlled. Then he smiled and said, "So you're the sister," and I shook his hand and said, "That's me," and Claire was already in the kitchen calling out that the bread was almost ready. He never said anything, neither did I. We had an entire dinner. Claire poured wine and told the story of how they'd met, a friend's birthday. She'd spilled something. He'd pretended not to notice. She was glowing. I watched her across the table and I thought, she has no idea there is a version of this night where I blow it apart. Where I say, actually, Marcus and I met over a year ago, and I thought about him on the train home, and I'd like everyone to sit with that for a moment. I didn't say it. I laughed in the right places and helped with the dishes. They got engaged 11 months later. I was her maid of honor. I gave a speech at the rehearsal dinner that made her cry, and I meant every word of it. That's the part that makes it worse somehow. I genuinely meant every word. At the wedding, during the vows, Marcus looked at Claire like she was the only thing in the room that was real. And maybe she was. Maybe whatever existed in that bar on a Thursday night was so small it doesn't deserve to be called a thing at all. I've made that argument to myself so many times I've lost count of how often I've won it. But here is what I can't shake. He knew, and he let her walk toward him without saying a word, and so did I. Does that make us the same? Or does it make me worse, because I'm the one who loves her? She called me last week, happy. She wanted to tell me about this trip they're planning. She laughed at something he said in the background, and I could hear her, completely unguarded in a way she only gets when she feels safe. She said, "I don't know, I just feel like I got lucky." And I said, "You did. You really did." I hung up and sat in my car in a parking garage for 20 minutes. I don't know what I protected by staying quiet. Her happiness, maybe. Or maybe just myself. Maybe both. Maybe neither. I've stopped being sure those are different things. She's my sister. She is the person I love most in this world. And I am holding something she might want to know, or might never need to know, and I genuinely cannot tell anymore which of those things is kinder. I've thought about telling her. I've thought about what her face would do. I've thought about what it would mean for her to look at the last 2 years and have to recalculate all of it, where she trusts, what she knows, who she thought was standing beside her. And then I think, is that for her, or is it for me? I don't have an answer. I've been living in the space between knowing and telling for so long that I'm not sure I'd recognize solid ground anymore. So I'll ask you, because you're the only one I've told. What would you have done?